Hello, all you beautiful people. This is Optimistically Depressed. I'm your host, Ruth McMullen. I've been thinking a lot about love. And I've been asking myself what it actually means. And it's funny, it's something that we think about, that we talk about a lot in society, but we don't really sit down and actually express the definition of it. And I'm sure that Webster's dictionary has some kind of definition for love, but how is that actually acted out? How is that played out in our lives? I talk about it all the time. I talk about how I love all of you. What does that mean? I've had to really wrestle with that. And another thing that I've been thinking about is how you can love a person but decide that they just can't be a part of your life anymore. They're hurting you too much. It's like, shouldn't love be a reason to not stop, to keep enduring? But then you have to recognize your own limits. Does love have limits? Should it have limits? But we can't get caught up in should and shouldn't. You just kind of have to look at what it is. I have limitless love. I would say I have limitless love for my children. I'd say I'd have limitless love for my husband, but I've never been tested to the extremes in any of those cases. I have struggled with feeling love, with accepting love, and I've struggled with the question of whether or not I should give love, which is interesting to me because I thought that I was a very loving person. But I've caught myself in a few instances when I'm getting really close with someone, I've caught myself hesitant. And I'm not really sure why that is. Maybe I've got myself a little bit too caught up in what the meaning is and what the words are that I would use to describe what love is. Maybe that's because love just really can't be described with our words. Maybe we're just too limited with this language, as is the case in many situations. Maybe this is just one of those. But I would say it also kind of goes back to trust. And can I trust myself? I would say I have trust issues. And is it because I feel like I can't trust other people, or is it because I feel like I can't really trust myself? Have I broken my promise to myself too many times? Have I failed to protect myself too many times? And is that what kind of prevents me from wanting to go forward and be truly loving? How's that for some deep philosophical discussion? It's just been something that's been, I don't know, I've been just kind of going back and forth on, or just kind of trying to explore lately. And I've had a couple friends talk about how it's something that you just kind of have to open yourself up to feel. And they were able to word it in such a way that it basically made me feel a lot. And of course, I cried because it just felt really good. But I'm still trying to digest what all of that meant. It certainly puzzles me. But I still do believe that love is something that can change the world. And maybe that's why it can change the world, because it's so complicated and simple. It's interesting. I got to interview Holly Carr, and I have to say, she is she's one of my favorite people. I only really just got to know her. I sat down and had a coffee with her before we did the podcast, and then she came over and did the podcast, and she's so full of wisdom and a way of expressing thoughts that is new, it's fresh, and wise. Just sitting with her and listening to her speak is so comforting. And I just really enjoy being in her presence. She's an extremely talented artist who's passionate about her work. And you can tell it's like she's passionate about her work because she truly believes in what she's doing. And she's doing something that is healthy, not only for her, but for everyone that encounters it. She is truly one of those people that I want to grow up to become. It was an incredible honor to have her in my home and to have her in my life. So I am really excited to be able to let all of you listen in on the conversation that her and I got to have. And I hope to have her on again because I just think that she has so much wisdom to share. And we can all benefit from that now, can't we? Maybe I could ask her what she thinks about love. So everyone just sit back and relax and take it in. Here's Holly. So, hi, Holly.
Hello. How are you, Ruth?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, actually. Yeah, had a pretty good day.
Good.
Yeah.
So, and we were just talking about where Holly lives now in Canning.
Yeah, Canning at the base of the North Mountain. So
Okay.
a lot of people know the look-off when you head to the Valley Blomidon Way, and we live at the base of that mountain before you head up to the look-off.
Oh.
So the mountain's our backyard, the North Mountain.
Oh, my goodness.
Literally our backyard. Yeah, I can walk out there, and we have hiking trails carved all through it, and it's so beautiful. We live on a 200-year-old farmhouse with lots of wonderful ghosts and lots of stories. And then we have about 11 acres, and it just climbs up into the mountain. So old farmland. It's really pretty. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, especially right now because it's mostly hardwood. So the whole mountain just turns, red and orange, yellow, and it's just happening now, and it makes me very happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is one of my favorite seasons right here.
Me too. I wish it would last longer, but maybe
Me
that's
too.
why it's favorite because it's so special because it's such a short season.
Yeah. So it's like it kind of forces you to keep your eyes open and keep watching.
Yeah. Just take it in. Love that crisp, fresh air when you wake up in the morning and walking. You still have the sun, The days are getting shorter, but I don't even mind that because you want to get cozy, when it gets cold. And no, it's all good. Yeah. I love it. Yep.
I love that. I like talking with people who enjoy it as well because it just kind of helps me be like, yes, see, it is great. Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. We have a garden, and we we grow pumpkins and sunflowers in there.
Oh my goodness.
And this is like harvest, so we only got 9 pumpkins this year, but that's pretty good. Sometimes you don't get as many. And we have bees, and so the bees are all sort of tucking in now, and we might get a little bit of honey from them, soon. Before their last little flight goes out, and it's a beautiful time. All our old blueberry bushes are turning red. Yeah, it's really pretty glorious. And our view from our studio is the North Mountain, so that's where I can just look out on that when I'm painting and just need to take a break. Just go out on the deck and get some air and look at the mountain and center myself. Good. Yeah, it's good.
And you and your husband are both artists.
We are. We're both full-time artists. We have been for over 25 years.
Wow.
We met at NASCAD, the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design, when we were, 20 when we met. So, we were kids. And
I love it.
And we've been full-time artists. We both have art teaching degrees, and I taught full-time for 1 year. And other than that, we have been full-time artists. So, it's been it's a struggle sometimes, but mostly it's been a really interesting life. Yeah. a rich one. Yeah.
And so, like, when you're doing art, you must be drawing like that. Like, you're drawing on yourself, your inspiration, and everything that you see, and like.
Yeah, well, that's actually interesting you say that, because when we were younger, I really liked to do a lot of social satire. Like, I loved going to gallery openings and cocktail parties and theater openings, and more as a voyeur really than actually participating. And then I would go home and paint all these scenes I would see, and I just loved doing that. And it was great fun, and I loved costume and painting that and creating that. But then probably as I've gotten older, it's more of our land. Yeah, it's we're surrounded by nature. We have foxes and coyotes and pheasants, and they're all in our backyard. I mean, they're literally there. Lots of beautiful ravens and eagles. So now what's happening is I find that creeping more into my my art and anthropomorphizing a lot of it, just having some fun with that. But right now, I'm actually building. My whole year has been consumed with Light in the Forest, which is all completely inspired by my yard, by my life around me, and I'm in the woods every day, but also by people I care about and the losses they've had. So it's a kind of a combination now, but not as much humor, but lots of beauty and poignancy, I think. Yeah.
And Light in the Forest. Let's talk about that.
Light in the Forest.
Yeah.
Oh, it has been a labor of love. Yeah, it's interesting because it's also been stressful. So I have to constantly remind myself of the light in the forest, because it's a lot of work. I've never produced a huge show. I've produced small ones, but this is a lot to take on and a lot of responsibility. But in my gut, I know it's right, and it's why I'm doing it. We had lost a number of young people in the past year who were suffering and couldn't get themselves out. Mm-hmm. And so it was, it was really eye-opening. And my own young son had really suffered when he was a young guy, especially. Mm-hmm. And so I could relate to that. And so I wanted to do something. So I had built this installation called Light in the Forest for Acadia University a few years back when my boy was young. Mm. And it was sort of looking at trying to understand his fears and his anxieties, and then coupled with my own fears as a child and what I was going through as a child. And created this installation where it was all scary in the forest on the outside with big trees and mythical beasts, but inside was beautiful and colorful and warm, and you could crawl inside this giant installation. And in there I had music like from Mr. Dress Up and The Friendly Giant and, and so inside you could go, and so you could go through the forest as much as you could take it, just like life. And then you go and you get in your cozy space and you feel safe and surround yourself with color and warmth and things that made you feel safe as a child. So I did that. And then when this happened, I brought it back out, and I thought, well, in a gallery, you have to, how many people come to the gallery, and we want to access as many people and spread a message, like a message of resilience and hope and mental wellness, And so I thought, well, let's just turn it into a theater piece, like a multimedia. So it's not a very traditional, like actor standing and speaking, and it's actually watching a piece of giant art come to life. And it takes you on a journey, and you just sit and go for the ride. And it takes you through the dark forest with the animals, with their glowing eyes and all the scary and the sounds. And then slowly, as each piece is revealed through this art installation, and each piece is like a sculpture, so hard to describe without seeing it. Then you slowly, the lights comes in. It gets lighter and lighter. So the beautiful and forest inhabitants are revealed in this gorgeous sunny light. Some with their babies, some rolling around, some eating berries, all the lovely things forest animals do besides stalking around with drooling, drooling and sharp teeth. And, so it's showing the other side and using really the forest as like a metaphor for fear and overcoming fear. So it's been, it's beautiful. We have dance or more movement, dance elements, and we have music, and I'm painting live in it, mostly monochromatically, but the color world is already, I pre-painted all of it. So some of it's up to like 40 feet by 15 feet giant paintings I've painted.
Wow.
And we're lighting them, and we have silk trees that are 12 feet tall and illuminated from the inside. It's a beautiful thing. And I just had the most exciting thing happen. So this project is becoming so many things. It's very multifaceted. So it is this theater piece, but it's also a book that's being published of the same name, which will be out probably just after Christmas.
Okay.
So Light in the Forest is for young kids.
I'm going to be watching for that.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I'm really looking forward to it. I've been working with a great designer there, so I'm really looking forward to seeing the end product.
Oh.
And each illustration is actually made up of a 10-foot painting, a 10 by 4 foot painting, and then it's broken up into pieces and photographs and then put together at the end so you can kind of see. It's like revealing a puzzle. It's like the giant reveal. So you go through the dark and at the end you see the whole thing as one big giant piece. So I've actually painted these giant paintings and then we're photographing them. So just finished the last one. They're waiting for that. So that's really exciting. And every forest you can almost think of that bring me joy are certainly in there. So the book, and then my son, who I spoke of earlier, he is actually doing a mini doc for us. So he's been filming since we began. And so we put that together and have a little bit so you can see the process of our journey. And then, this is really crazy, but I was driving with my daughter and my husband. We were taking her to U of T. Mm-hmm. And we were in the car, and I told them I wrote a song, which they burst out laughing. Yeah, I'm not a songwriter. But I had this idea, and I could hear this in my head, the light in the forest. I could hear this song, and I could hear children singing it, and this beautiful, I could just feel it. And so I had written most of it in kind of a skeleton form. And so I had them help me with 2 more verses on the way to Toronto. So in the car, we were all laughing and just coming up with words and trying to create something that wasn't too cliche, which is really hard. And so we wrote this song, and I still don't think they thought I was going to do anything with it. Anyway, I got back, and I have a good friend who's a musician, and she got the notation. I sang it to her, and she turned it into notation. And then she's so talented, she arranged it for a children's choir. And now we have the Annapolis Valley Honor Choir singing it. Oh, it's so beautiful. I wish I could show you. It's so gorgeous. And so last night I was at their first rehearsal, and here's a stage of children. I guess they maybe 8 to 12. I'm thinking maybe 7 to 12, and they did their first run through of this song. So I was sitting in the audience. I chatted with them first. I had to go out and talk to them, and I sat in the audience, and then I just was listening and worked through it, and it's incredibly beautiful. Their voices are just pure. So gorgeous. And so I was sitting in the audience, and all I could think of as they were singing this song was my daughter and my husband and I joking in the car, literally weeks ago, 1st of September, and playing with this song. And then I'm sitting there watching this, and I just got shivers. That any of us is capable of, if we have a dream or we have an idea that we can make things come to fruition, just by reaching out and connecting with people and finding people who can do, I'm not a singer, but I knew that this was working, and now I have singers who are very talented singing it and bringing the magic in, and now it's part of the show. So it's the finale of the show. Is this children's choir, and they're totally on board, and they get it. They get the message. They understand it, and hearing them sing it, it was like, yeah, that's, there's this little line at the very last line. It kind of takes you through the dark, through the light, just like the book does. It follows the same animals through the thing. The very last line is, the sun shines through the branches and warms the forest floor, but I'm not afraid because I've been here before. And there's light in the forest, and I am not afraid. There's light in the forest. And it's very simple, but it was the finale of the song, and hearing 50 kids sing that, it just moved me. And so I'm really excited. I'm thrilled. It's just, every time when you hit a roadblock, because it's hard doing this, trying to pull lots of people together and getting financing is a huge deal. But we got our first major sponsor today, so I'm very excited about that too.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you, Clearwater.
Awesome.
They've come on as a presenting sponsor, which is
my gosh.
wonderful. And we have a few others who are really interested too. So that's going to help a lot. Yeah. And we've partnered with the Canadian Mental Health Foundation, Association, I should say, the Nova Scotia division. And they are, they've endorsed our project, and they're going to be in the room, and we're going to work with them and see if we can't tour it into outer communities over the next year or so.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's really exciting too. That's just happened recently. So we've had some real breakthroughs, but lots of meetings and lots of talking, and everybody, feeling good about the project, all on the same page. And it's been a big learning curve for me, but exciting. Yeah. There you go.
And it's in November, right?
It is. Yes, November 2nd. At the
okay.
St. Matthew's Church on Barrington Street. And we are we're getting close to sold out. We've sold over 250 tickets.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow. Yeah, and I think we have 350 seats, but then I just had calls today. So I think we will sell out.
Yeah.
So it's exciting, and we've made it really accessible. Like the price, we kept the price really decent. It's $20, which includes all your taxes and everything, like no extra fees. We want the first show just to be so you can get in there and enjoy it. And it's like just 50 minutes to an hour long tops. No intermission.
Perfect.
It just happens.
Yeah.
And because we want to break the spell of what you're going to be watching with an intermission, because it moves along really fast. So it's sort of like, if you don't enjoy dance, it's not really traditional dance. It's more movement. If you think of people embodying these animals, is what they are doing more than traditional dance. And then the music is actually taken from it's Jennifer King's our musical director, and she's compiled all these pieces of classical music from all over the world, and each kind of represents an animal. And so it's a free-flowing, beautiful, and she's an incredibly talented player. And there's a grand piano there, so she'll be playing it. And she's actually incorporated into the show in a really interesting way. And then Veronique McKenzie is our choreographer, and she's just a really talented dancer and choreographer. And she'll be actually dancing with another young woman. So our two dancers are an older and a young woman that she's mentoring in. So we have, in fact, our three main creatives are over 50, and they're all women. And in fact, our whole cast is all women, young women, and women, which is really neat. You know, like our lighting designer, our sound designer, they're all young women. So it's just the way it's turned out, and I think it's really delightful. Like I love it, and that the older ones we're bringing the younger ones in with us. Now, in saying that, my guy, Alan Bateman, he's wonderful, and he's been a huge support. And my son Jack, of course, is doing our filming. So, but in the main creatives are so it's pretty cool. I think you had a bunch of old broads up there doing our stuff. Yeah, it's really fun. Yeah, I love it.
Oh my gosh, that is like listening to you talk about this is really inspirational and like encouraging.
Oh, good. So, I'm glad.
There was something that you said earlier about building resilience. Mm-hmm. And I've been thinking a lot about resilience because, I read that book, Daring Greatly by Brené Brown.
Tell me about it.
So it's primarily about vulnerability.
Yeah.
And how people can grow towards being wholehearted. And so she's a researcher. And I feel like I'm using the wrong term for it, but she has basically spent many, many years researching vulnerability and gathering data, like interviewing people. And she's found, so this book is about how to be vulnerable and how to, like the importance of vulnerability. And one of the things that she mentions in it is building resilience. Yeah. And that's stood out to me. And I think a big reason is because I want to be resilient, but I still am having trouble like exactly grasping what that is, like what it really means to be resilient, and how do I build that? Like, is it like a thought pattern, or is it like, can you only gain it through experience? Do you have any advice on that?
I think you're actually doing it without even, it's not like something, I don't even know if it's something you can think about. It's just something you're doing, but every day you're getting up and every day you're playing with your kids and you're doing things like going to get your pumpkins, all those things are building resilience. I don't think it's a conscious thing. I think it's just doing. It's in the doing and the moving and the making things happen. That's what it is. And, you're talking about vulnerability and, I think it's so easy. It's so much easier to relate to people when they're vulnerable.
Yeah.
I think people think of it, oh, you have to be strong and but, as soon as somebody like cracks a little bit and lets you in, you just fall in love with them. So there's something about that, isn't there? It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I really think, and it's hard to do because we guard ourselves to protect our hearts, and it's not easy when we get hurt. And I've certainly been hurt when you lay everything out there and you're rejected for some reason. But I think it's still worth it. And yeah, the people probably I love the most are the most vulnerable people. Who will be open with me. Yeah, and real. Yeah.
It's interesting, like how vulnerability and being real, like that's the same. Like they're hand in hand.
I think it is. Yeah. You can, strength, being a strong person. What does that look like? Right?
Yeah.
It can be so many things. I think even being vulnerable is being a strong person. Like letting yourself, like that to me is the bravest thing. Think about it. It's not, toughing through and, and not, oh, this isn't bothering me and I'm fine and nothing gets me down and all of that foolishness. Well, it is getting you down, maybe not on the outside, but things get you down. You can't, we're human. We're all a little bit, cracked, and we have to be able to let ourselves be vulnerable, or else it's I think you miss out on so much. I think you miss out on meaningful connections with people.
Do you find that like being an artist calls for a lot of vulnerability?
I think so. There's probably very different types of artists, right? Like we're all so some maybe not so much. Maybe theirs is about building walls and keeping people out or what have you. I think that's interesting. I think mine is because my art is I'm very social, like around, like people watch. I paint live in front of audiences. People watch me paint. Like I'm not hidden away in the studio, right? Sometimes hundreds of people are watching me paint, and I'm laying it all out there, and I could make a mistake. I have no pattern. I have nothing I'm following. I'm literally making things up as I go. That's a very vulnerable state to be in front of a lot of people. It can be really humiliating. I try to. There's something about that it kind of excites me. I think like adrenaline rush, to just put yourself on the line like that. But I know I'm setting myself up for potential failure and or to be judged.
Yeah.
Right?
That's so scary.
It is. It's scary. None of us want to be judged. I don't like it in my daily life. I certainly don't like the idea of people talking about me or making assumptions about who I am. The great thing about getting older, though, is you really start letting that go. Time is so important and joy and all of those things. And I can't spend too much time on all of that negativity. So as I get older, I care less and less about those types of things, which is really wonderful. That's one of the great things about getting older. You care a little bit less about what people think of what you look like and all. Not that I don't care if I have a nice dress on or something, but I just it's not the same as when I was a young woman. And and I think of what a relief it is that I don't have to carry that or care. So I put myself in lots of situations that could be really embarrassing, and I don't know quite why I do it. Well, let me think. Why do I do that? What is wrong with me? I don't. I have though. I've set out. Even this production, I'm putting myself out there in a huge way.
Yeah.
And I'm on the line. And if it's, if it all falls apart, then it certainly will be, me or my fault or whatever. But I'm willing to risk that to try and make this happen because I believe in it. That's all I can do is just believe in it and move forward. And if it fails, then I'll pick up the pieces and move and do something else. It's not like things in the past have never fallen apart. I mean, that's life, good and bad. It just is what it is. But sometimes the risk is really fun, just to throw yourself out there. I think the biggest one, I remember when I was painting live, oh my gosh, I took on, I think, the symphony. I was working with Nova Scotia Symphony.
Whoa.
And I said, I can do 32 feet, painting 32 foot by 8 feet. And I had an hour with breaks because the conductor would talk in between that hour. And I just said I could do it. And I really didn't know if I could do it. I mean, I sort of thought probably I could do it. So, jumping around back there and I didn't love it totally. There was areas I really loved, but a lot of areas I didn't. But in the end, I don't know if I think people enjoyed it and it was fun. And it was just like pushing yourself like that to just see, well, what am I capable of? So then I went bigger. I went to a 20 by 30 foot painting. What? I had 6 hours to do it. And I was on one of those cranes because I couldn't reach the top without driving one of those, those things that go up and down.
Yes.
I don't know what those things are called.
Yeah,
those
like
crazy,
a lift.
Like a lift. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had to drive it back and forth because my screen was 20 by 30 feet. But then it was like another 10 to 15 feet off the ground. So then I had to get way up to so I was on this really high
Oh
thing
my gosh.
and driving it back and forth. They just kind of braced me in. And I had 6 hours, and I remember getting through the bottom part, and I was going too detailed. I had to relax a little bit, and I thought, if you don't speed up, you're not going to actually do this. And so I just focused, and I just worked straight until I could. And I literally finished at the last, as soon as the music stopped at that last little thing, I had my last bit done. I was behind the screen. I worked behind the screens, and the color comes through the front, and it was completely physically exhausting. But it felt so good to realize I could do it. But I must admit, I had some real panic back there. I thought could be a disaster if I can't get this done. I mean, because I thought I could, and I told them I could. But,
Right.
Sometimes you just have to do that. You just have to have a gut feeling and throw yourself at something that, maybe you'll fail. But so what? Like, what is the worst thing in the world? Like, so what? Really? In the big scheme of things, in the big scheme of life, it's so what? Nobody's going to care. People are worried about their own selves. They don't worry about what you're doing, So it might be a little embarrassing for a few minutes, whatever. Then you move on and do something else. And that certainly happened in my past. But I guess I am a risk taker in that way. I never really thought about it because my husband would never do any of this, and he's an artist, but there's not a chance he'd ever. No. He thinks I'm crazy. He's like, what are you doing up there? What are you doing? So no, he likes to be in his own little space painting quietly, nobody watching him and just doing his thing. And yeah, we're very different. But then he kind of loves it too because he gets on board with me. And next thing you know, he's helping me build these giant installations. And yeah, he's a real sweetheart like that. Yeah. But I'm sure he doesn't understand why I'm doing it, nor do I. So how can I explain? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You're just flinging yourself out there.
I totally fling myself out there. And it's funny because now I feel like I'm doing it even more so. I think maybe because I'm getting older and I'm still feeling pretty good. And I think, I don't know how long, like people, you're going to live, well, maybe I will live to 100. I don't know. But physically how will I feel? I don't know, right? And right now I do feel good and I've been fortunate in many ways. So I really want to do as much as I can while I'm feeling good. Like that takes a lot of physical energy, not just mental energy. I love to create, so that will never stop. It doesn't matter if I'm doing it for myself. I can't stop. It's like when I did parties for my kids and their friends. I mean, it was always like it's a show. It's just like I love it, right? I love it. I love the aesthetics, and I love putting it together, and I love the creativity, and I love trying to find some creative problem solving. So that's a part of who I just am. So that goes no matter, as a mother, as an artist, as a whatever. I will be that always. So now it's in a public scale. It's become that. And that does add an extra pressure. But a nice little extra adrenaline boost. It's probably not bad for my aging self. So I'll take that. Next weekend, I'm actually painting a 32-foot painting live in an hour and a half.
Where?
At have you heard of Big Magic? I don't know if you know about this event. It's Elizabeth Gilbert, Eat, Pray, Love, fame. She wrote and she just wrote Big Magic, but she's written a lot of other books too. City Girls, there's quite a few. She's got a huge fan base.
Wow.
And she's a great public speaker and a very motivational person. And so I've been invited to paint. It's the backdrop of the whole event. And so there's one night where she's just, her and Nancy Reagan and Anne Berube are all speakers. And so I'll be painting. It'll be live streamed through the building as people are kind of coming in. And then I finish it as they all sit down. And then that becomes the backdrop for the whole event. And we might be leaving a few spaces for them to actually paint at the end with me, which might be fun if we can work that in. And so then they have their talks in front of it, and then they do this whole workshopping the next day. And so that art will be the background of all of that. And I'm painting actually one of my giant rabbits jumping out of the forest for light in the forest. And then I'm going into all this big botanical stuff. So I think it's going to be really nice. And I'm just going to try and relax. I'll work big. I just got to keep away from too much detail and just chill out and just get in there and relax and try and really enjoy being in my body and in that space and trying to let go and not worry too much about what the subject matter will be and just really just painting and enjoying myself. Worst comes to worst, so something looks a little goofy. I don't know if people really realize it. They'll just think I did it on purpose. So I think it'll be okay. But so that's coming up. Yeah. So that's happening really soon. And then they're also going to promote Light in the Forest while they're there. They're letting us, because, the messages are this very similar about, about sort of, kind of not taking control of your life, but making decisions and choices about your life. And that's something, that's something getting older. That's when I woke up to, actually probably in my 30s, maybe 40s. I remember just all of a sudden it was like I'll give you an example. So when I was a young one with my guy, my partner, he was very romantic. And and then I thought, oh gosh, we're getting really boring, whatever, oh, he didn't bring me flowers, whatever it was. I don't know. Anyway, it was probably in our late 20s, early 30s. And we used to have this walk we did, and it went around our property, and it's a loop. We call it the loop. And I actually life loop because we walked this as a young couple, then we had a puppy, and then we had a baby on my back, and then we had our kids, and then we had teenagers. So this loop we walked in, it's like a 15-minute loop around our property, and it's just, it's our life loop, and I can feel it. When I walk it now as an older woman, I can feel my kids and my dog, and anyway, it's like they're all there, their energy's all still there, and anyway, I took off on a tangent there.
No, I really liked that.
Yeah. I kind of went a little crazy. So I shouldn't keep saying that. So anyway, where was I? Help me come back to my spot.
So it was when you were younger. And
yes, the romance. I'll get back to the romance. Yeah. Sorry, I just, that life loop. So on that life loop, we were walking one night, and I was, I don't know, bemoaning something as we do as couples, whatever. And I remember my husband, saying to me, can't you see our life? Like, look where we are. And it's the middle of the day, and we're on a hike. And he said, it's not about creating romance. It's that our life is romantic. It's our life that we choose to live. And then I thought about that, and I realized it is. It's like everything. It's a choice when you get up every day about how you want to live your life. And that's sort of what it comes down to. And so if I'm waking up with negative energy or whatever, I can turn that around by choosing how I'm going to face that day, or how I'm going to interact with somebody that maybe I'm having a stressful time with and maybe I don't want to have a stressful time with. I can choose. If I want romance in my life, I can choose it. I can set the mood. I can set the table. I can pour wine. I mean, you have so much power within your choices of how your day is going to come alive, right? And it just seems like such a simple thing, and it was an epiphany to me. I don't know why, but it was. And then so if I woke up and I was feeling a little grumpy, with your partner, well, you're going to be grumpy to them. Why would you start your day? Then you're setting a whole pattern for a day, which you didn't have to set, right? So if I choose no, I want to have a joyous, loving day, I can choose to roll over and give him a kiss or a hug and be warm, then get mad because I realize I have a big, busy day ahead of me, right? And that sets your whole day. And I mean, that's just an example. I mean, it's not just in romance or your love life or whatever. It's in every aspect of your life. How you treat your children, what you decide to do that day. I don't have a lot of time, but well, maybe we'll make cookies instead of watch the movie, or we'll do, there's just so many things. It's just, or sit and read a book for a minute, just because, you can fit a minute in, it's all those simple things. And it changed my whole life. And I'm not saying I don't have a bad day. Hell yeah, I have a bad day, but but I realize it's a lot of it's up to me, how I want it to be. And, and I have a really good life. And I think it's because I try and make really good choices. And sometimes I fail at it, but I'm trying all the time. And I think that makes the difference. And I think it's probably why we're still married. You know what I mean? Really, after 34 years,
wow.
We've been together a long time and we're really happy. And I think it's not without its troubles and whatever, but because he's a good guy too. And I think both of us wake up and make good choices, so that we can have a good life and the best life we can have, because that's all you can work towards, is the best life you can have in the circumstances you're in, right? Because we don't get to choose those,
right?
Because sometimes they're not great, but there's still joy to be found even in some of the worst times. It's still there, if you look for it. So yeah.
I've been thinking about the choices and making good choices that are going to benefit me, be healthy for me and my family.
Absolutely.
And I've been noticing they don't feel good.
Right.
All the time.
No, hell no. Fake it till you make it? Is that what you mean? I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, it's not always easy, is it? That's what I said. I'm not, I'm speaking as Pollyanna, and I don't mean to. But I just know in the big scheme of things, it's working for me.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to really struggle, because sometimes if someone disappoints you or hurts you, it's really hard to just take a breath and, go, okay, what is this? One thing my father-in-law used to say, I loved how he would say this. He'd say, especially in conflict, right? He'd say, well, how do you want the situation to turn out? What do you want to happen? So if you're in a conflict with someone or something in your life, what is your goal here? And is your goal to be in an argument with somebody and maybe never talk to them again in your life because there's just, it's, or, even driving your car, road rage.
Yeah.
People are crying. So how do you want the situation to turn out with this person? So that's yelling at you in the car. Are you going to yell back at them? What do you want? Do you want to just be able to calmly drive home and make it home? Or do you want to end up in a fight on the side of the road with some person? So it's thinking, making your head leap forward and go, how do I want my night to be? So if I'm being grumpy or whatever, well, I want my night to be calm and I want to have a nice dinner. And it's those types of things. It's just a little leap in your head when you're in a conflicted mood or time. It's that little bounce ahead and go, oh, right, okay. Whew, take a breath, walk away, calm down, and go, okay, yeah, you can. Yeah, I mean, it's work. It's a bit of work, but it's. I think it's worth it.
Yeah,
really, it's worth it.
It's something that I've been having. It's simplifying. I'm going to simplify this a lot.
Sure, go for it.
But when, so I'm at the age now where our friends and us are starting to realize that there are certain choices that you can make one night that's really going to affect the next day, like drinking too much,
right,
or staying up too late,
right,
when you know that you have a busy day the next day, or and even I don't like staying up too late, even when I don't have anything to do the next day, because I just feel like crap anyway.
Right.
But and it's like when you're in the time like that night, you're thinking, this would be fun right now. Right. This would be fun.
Right.
But then all of a sudden it's like you finally, like, I'm almost 33. Like, I'll be 33 November.
You're a baby.
I know, right? That's true. But also it's just kind of like, I'm finally starting to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to think ahead a little bit here. If I do that, I'm going to feel awful and hate myself.
Right.
So how about,
your consequences, you mean, of your behavior.
Yeah.
It's all, we all have those, that's for sure.
And it's like, it just feels so, like, in the moment, like, it doesn't feel good. Like, you're just kind of like, oh, that sucks. But then all of a sudden you're just kind of like, oh, well, actually, I guess it's not really that bad. And then, like, does it start to get easier to make the healthier choice? Or do some choices start to get easier? Or
that's interesting. I think because you're as you get older, you just get more familiar with yourself and your body. Mind you, it changes so bloody much. It's like new choices over and over. Because when you think you got everything figured out when you're in your 30s, and the 40s change everything, and then go through menopause. Good God, a whole other host of choices you might want to make, but I don't know. I mean, I think for me it is. I mean, it's all, to me, it's all balance, and it's also moderation of everything in my whole life. It's like, when diet fads come in, okay, only eat that, and then, or don't eat any carbs, and you're going to lose weight, you're going to do this, and there's all these fads have come through my lifetime. I mean, I can't even tell you how many fads. And it's like, to me, it's always been, it's moderation, because we're not extreme beings. Right? We can't live on the edge. We can't live out there like that all the time. We just can't. We can't survive. So you try and find, so you mix those, for me, like, we certainly love to go out. Last night I was out with my, after the choir, with listening to the choir of the children singing my song. We, ended up at some friend's place and having a glass of wine, before we walked home. So,
yeah,
and yeah, probably wasn't the smartest idea, because I had to get up really early this morning in total, but sometimes things are worth it. And it's not like it's every night we're out, doing that. And so yeah, it is. I mean, I also know my limit now, because I'm older. I know when to stop. I know what, and I enjoy the company so much. All that other stuff it's not as important to me, just to enjoy being with everybody and sitting out, and we're outside on a deck, enjoying nature. So yeah, that's an interesting thing. I think it's such an individual thing, whether you realize that, but I think you just know your body and everything more, don't you? Like, as you get older, what you can take and what you can't. But I sure love an evening out, like, to this, I mean, you have young children too. That's a whole other thing. Like, young children, and that's taxing, to a certain degree on,
Yeah.
And I remember when I was with my kids when they were younger, it was sort of more focused on our family.
Yeah.
More so. And then the odd weekends we'd do things here and there. But, our one date night a week we had scheduled that from the time they were born. Date night, Tuesday nights were date nights.
I like that idea.
It was a great idea. I'm telling you, it was, we started it when our son was born, because we love movies. Like, movies are our thing. And since we met in art college, we go to avant-garde. Like, we love really interesting movies, but just fun, crazy, trashy movies too. And so what we decided was Tuesday, it was cheap movie night. And that sort of started back, I guess, in the 90s, early 90s. And so when our son was born, we hired a babysitter for a whole year. And then every Tuesday, she was booked to come and we paid her really well. We made sure there was lots of snacks, so she always wanted to come.
Yeah.
And that was our night. And we went to a movie, or we go to dinner, and we'd hang out, and we'd just be young and silly again to get, because you have to do that. You have to kind of, be alone. To appreciate your kids, you have to have time together, right?
Right. Yes.
And it's really important. It is super important. And it was fun. And now we don't even have kids at home. We still do it. So our kids are grown up, and every Tuesday night we go out. Just because it's been our thing, and mind you, we go out Fridays and Saturdays now. We have like a whole open schedule now. So it was fun just to laugh together and be alone and have your own private jokes and your own little intimate time without a kid interrupting. Even though they're so delightful and wonderful, it's still, you need to have that.
Yeah, because it can get old.
Oh yeah, it's hard. No, and there's kids need things, and they need you a lot, and they need even the physicality of you, like on you and around you, and I mean, I did love it. I must say this. I can still smell what their hair smelled like. I can still.
Oh my goodness! There's like that certain scent that they have at a certain age.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's warm and. It smells like outdoors to me, but yeah, it's sweet little smell, and it's not just it's not their shampoo or anything. It's their humanness, and little kidness. And, I remember it well, and I can still, and that's when I had kids. I remember knowing it was not going to last. I just felt like we were in a bubble until school started, and then. Then it was a whole other thing. Mm-hmm. In fact, school sped everything up because you had to schedule all of a sudden until we took our son out in grade 6. Okay. So we had this sort of bubble, and I remember thinking, okay, really remember this, because I remember taking the two of them. They were about 2.5 years apart. Okay. So I'd have one at 1.5, one at almost, it's about 4, years old. Close, and I would take them, we'd have I'd be painting, and they'd be playing around me. I was always working from the day they were born. They played in our studio. Oh. And then I would take them in the room, and we just lay down, we'd joke around, and I'd, get to snuggle them and just tickle them and wrestle, just silly, reading books and all of that. And I can still remember feeling them each in one arm, I thought I could carry them even that way. Mm. And I can remember just thinking, gosh, like this is just a moment in time. I really want to just smell them and enjoy them and have this time, because it went that fast. It was just, so I would, and even picking up my daughter from school, I would always go get her, and we lived very close. You could probably take the bus, but I just wanted to pick her up because it was fun and I was home and I could do it.
Yeah.
And so I would go, and she always would hold my hand, when you, and your kids are young, they do, right?
They do, yeah.
And so I still remember, and I have fairly big hands, and she's this little girl, and I can just remember her holding my hand. She'd grab it as soon as I would come to get her from her class.
Yeah.
And I can remember walking down the hall, and she was probably getting probably around 6 or 7-ish, and just thinking how lucky I was, that she still wanted to hold my hand, and just feeling, and I remember thinking, feel her hand in your hand, so you'll always remember that. And I can still remember her tiny little hand in my hand. So those things are, they fill you up sometimes. When I miss them, I can think of those things. And it was really fun at Christmas. They came home. I had them both, which was great. I never expect it. I'm happy with whatever happens. And and it was Christmas morning, and they both climbed in my bed. When they were little. They're giant now, 6'7" and 5'8". They're not tiny, which is kind of hysterical. But it was just this. They had no idea, and it was just a simple little gesture, and them, saying "Merry Christmas" to me, and they have no idea what a gift that was. And they have no idea, and until they have their own children, they'll never know. So beautiful, Those are what we were talking about, the simple things, remember earlier?
Yeah.
Those are the things, you just hang on to those things when things are dark. Those are good things to hang on to, and they're so simple. The smell of their head, the feel of their hand in your hand, and it's pretty special.
I'm still so my oldest, she is 9.
Yeah.
But I can still faintly see that her hands are still kid hands.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just I keep looking at them, just being they're still there. They're still kid hands.
It's my little baby.
Yeah.
Well, even now, it's funny because even, how they sleep certain ways. Some will have I have one who always had their hands here, and you can go in. I love watching kids when they sleep. I'm sure most people do. They're just so sweet. I mean, it's just beyond,
Yeah.
and my son always slept a certain way, and even now as adults, sometimes like if I ever see them sleeping, which is I'm not creeping around the rooms, that would be really creepy, but about the odd time I've caught a glimpse if we're on a trip or they have their door open, and I can still see them. I can see the baby in them. I can see, it's crazy. It's like little ghosts running around, their energy. So if they're in my house and they see something and they do a gesture, I can remember them doing that as a little person, and I can see it. I can just see it like how sometimes you wonder if your memories are memories that are real or from your photographs, because sometimes photographs.
Yeah.
And I'm super aware of that. And so I try and differentiate, like, is this a memory from a photograph or is this a memory? And so whenever there's a smell attached or if they're not facing me or there's a movement, then I know it's a real memory. Because we only take pictures of kids sitting straight looking at, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. So those are, and those are the things I really try and hang on to. Those sweet things. Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty nice, actually.
Oh my goodness. You've had me in near, my eyes have been especially sweaty this whole time that we've been sitting here. I love the way that you look at life. I love it. You are romantic.
It's funny. Well, thank you. And I didn't, you know what? I probably am. And it's so funny because when I was young, romantic in, not in the way I would have thought if you had said that when I was younger. But I guess it is. Yeah. And I'm okay with that. I would have thought if someone you say, are you romantic? I'd probably say, no, I'm not really, which is so funny because you're right. I probably am. And it's, I don't even know. It's not even, it's just, it's all, I guess it's just all wrapped up in emotion. It's really being in touch with what makes you feel good or sad or happy and trying to stay connected to that and not becoming, like flatlining or blanking out. It's really important to me to have that little bit of vibration, and that makes me feel connected to my people or what I'm doing or my project and, highs, lows, whatever. That's all good for me. Like, I don't mind having lows because I know I'm going to go back up, I can have lows. Because when you're up here vibrating and you've got all this excitement, you got to crash out sometimes to get back up again. So you have a rest and then come back. Yeah, that's interesting. I think I am a romantic. Well, that's very insightful. I'll have to think about that. I'm okay with it, though. Yeah,
okay, good.
I'm good with that.
Okay, cool. Because I was saying it as a compliment.
Oh, well, I'll take it however, but I'm good with that. I think you're probably right. You're probably 100% right. Yeah, that's interesting. Huh.
I think I just, your way of looking at life is very unique. And I love how it's looking at each stage and just being in it, like feeling it.
Yeah.
That's
what we have no choice. If we want to enjoy our life, right? Yeah.
It's like, yes, you're right. Yeah. It's just something that I don't often think of. I mean, I do often think of it, but I don't often articulate it. And I think that's necessary in order to really understand what I'm doing.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. But it's probably happening without, you're in it anyway, right? We're all in it. We're all just in it. And it's choosing to, it's choosing to feel and feel strongly is what it is, and not being afraid to. That's what it is. And so sometimes that doesn't feel good.
No, sometimes it really doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
I still get afraid to feel.
Yeah.
I really do. And I'll resist it. And then it ends up really hurting me.
Yeah. Yeah, and you miss out. Because if because you got it. It's scary. It's scary to go low. It's scary to go dark. But there are no highs without it either. There's no, one kind of facilitates the other. Like, it's like there, I can personally say, I mean, I do not want a life that's all up here. Like it's not real. That's not a real life, right? That doesn't mean I'm certainly going to make the best of every day I'm going to make, but you can't stay up here all the time because it's exhausting. So you have to have rest. You have to be able to come back down. But then know that when you're down, that you can come back up. That's the important part. And keeping that so that you're not afraid to go down, knowing I can come back up and come back and get to the light again.
I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
That's like, because when I'm having my down days, the thing that really gets me is that I can, like, I'll just get stuck in this thought of like, this is it. Like, this is life.
No, and it's not. It's just a piece. It's just a piece. It's a moment in time. And I think that, yeah, and I think keeping that in memory. I mean, even our Light in the Forest thing, that's what it's about. So, so if we can take you, I mean, it just seems so surfacey, but it's not. I swear to you, there's poignancy in here. But if we take you as a viewer into the light, like slowly into the light, like with little reveals until all of a sudden it's like, bam, and you're in that high vibration and everything's, and you're really like, oh, this is so wonderful. And then inevitably at some point it's going to go dark again. It just has to. It doesn't have to go really, really but it's going to go dark again. So even in the show, we shut the veil, we turn it all down. We shut the whole show down again. So you only get to stay there so long, and then we shut it all back down and bring it down slowly, not like a crash, like a slow, just like ebbs and flows, just like life. And then we turn everything off. And then what we're hoping is that you can have the memory of that light and that vibration, and that you experienced it. You feel it. I mean, you've had joy in your life. You know what that feels like, right?
Yes.
And so because you've been there before, you can get there again. So instead of like when it all goes dark thinking, oh, well, this is what it's going to be now. No, it is right this minute, but you can go back. You're going to go back, and knowing that you can go back and that you will go back, and it's ebb and flow, instead of thinking I'm stuck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a choice again. I mean, I realize there's a lot more than just choice, but some of it is just remembering the light, and that you can go back. You can go back and it will be there. Especially if you never felt joy in your life ever in your whole life, it would be hard because you wouldn't realize it was joy in life, right? But if you've had it, and I know you have, when you've had it, then there's something to go back to, and there's something worth like crawling back out of the hole for, right? Because it's up there, and you're going to get to enjoy it again, even if this is a bad day. It's important to know that and to remember that. Yeah. And that's all Light in the Forest is. It's just, it's just life. That's all it is. When the light in the dark. Light in the dark. When you're dark, there's light. Yeah.
I love talking to you.
I love talking to you. It's been fun.
Yeah. And the time went by very, very quickly. But I have to ask you one last question.
Yes.
This is the question I like to ask everybody.
Absolutely.
What does it look to you to be mentally healthy?
Wow. That's a good question. I think it's sort of what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
It's really a balance, isn't it? Not being worried if it's not all high vibration.
Yeah.
That it's okay, and that you can make choices, and you can get out of the bed and decide how your day is going to be. And sometimes it's not going to be great, even when you try, but that you're going to try, and you're going to make the best of what you have. And I think sometimes even if your day is like the darkest day, I bet you if you look, there's probably just a glimmer of something really maybe sparkly in there you can hang on to. And even if I was sort of vision it like that, like if I'm having like a really dark time, think of the veil, like I was talking about for light in this forest, and there's like a little tiny hole, like a little hole, and just a little spark of light you can see through. And then you just sort of think, when I can, I'm just going to keep ripping it open just a little bit more and a little bit more until I can just rip it open, let the light and just climb out of the hole. And so it's like a visualization to get back into the light, and knowing that it's there, and don't beat yourself up about it if it's hard to get there. It's there, and you'll get back to it. Yeah, it'll be okay. Yeah, it'll
Thank
be
you.
okay. Thank you.
This was a really good talk.
Thank you. Glad I enjoyed it.
I would love to have you back sometime.
Anytime.
Okay.
Call me and we'll come back.
Okay. I would like that.
We'll reassess.
Yeah. Everyone who's listening, thank you very much. And just know that wherever you are, Holly and I are sitting here loving you.
Absolutely. Big love. Yeah.
Have a really great morning, afternoon, evening, night. I will be talking to you soon.